Hello, and welcome to my channel. This audio is a narrated reading shared with fellow novel lovers. All rights belong to the original author and publisher. No copyright infringement is intended. If you enjoyed this chapter, please like and subscribe for more chapters. Now, let's begin. A Lady's Tranquility. Story of Kunning Palace. Ning An Meng. Author, Shi Jing. Chapter 45. Inciting Hatred. That's great. I think so too. Yao Shi was so happy after hearing what Jiang Xuening said that she couldn't help but smile, and she continued, I will write a letter to my father right away. I think that although Zhang Jia took the initiative to cancel the engagement, it's not because he doesn't want to marry me, but because he's afraid that he would be a burden after I marry him. But if I am willing, then he will no longer have any worries. This way, this way. In this way, the marriage can be completed. The Yao family was so prestigious, and she thought her looks and upbringing were both first-rate in the capital, so how could Zhang Jia have any reason to refuse? However, this was a bit difficult for a young lady to say, so she hesitated for a long time, but didn't say it out loud. But Jiang Xuening understood. For the rest of the journey, Yao Shi walked beside her, seemingly changing her hostility towards her and wanting to be friends with her. After all, if Jiang Xuening hadn't persuaded her before, she might not have known that Zhang Jia was such a noble person. But Jiang Xuening didn't want to have a close relationship with her. She asked herself, did she really like Yao Shi and approve of Yao Shi as a person? The answer was no. She was not happy to see the marriage proposal between Yao Shi and Zhang Jia come to fruition. But at this moment, Zhang Jia had no understanding of Yao Shi. But Jiang Xuening didn't want to have a close relationship with her. She asked herself, did she really like Yao Shi and approve of Yao Shi as a person? The answer was no. She was not happy to see the marriage proposal between Yao Shi and Zhang Jia come to fruition. But at this moment, Zhang Jia had no understanding of Yao Shi. In this life, because of her own obstruction and advice, Yao Shi did not use despicable means to slander Zhang Jia and give him the reputation as a wife killer. Zhang Jia's side remained innocent. If after receiving the letter to cancel the engagement, she not only did not give up but wanted to marry Zhang Jia, then from Zhang Jia's perspective, what kind of person should Yao Shi be? No need to think about it. She came from a high-class family but was willing to devote herself to a poor family. She gave help in times of need, but did not add insult to injury. She was neither snobbish nor selfish, and she kept her promises. No matter how you look at it, she was a wonderful girl. Zhang Jia should agree, right? Jiang Xuening knew what kind of person Yao Shi was, and didn't think Zhang Jia should marry her. But she was not qualified to do anything else. Previously, she scolded You Yu and warned Yao Shi because she could not sit back and watch Zhang Jia's reputation be slandered. Now that Yao Shi was willing to marry, anyone in the world could criticize and object, but she could not, and she had no position. Because she had selfish motives towards Zhang Jia. If she wanted to ruin this marriage, she would never dare to say with a clear conscience that it was just because she couldn't stand Yao Shi's character. In the Fengchen Palace in the early morning, the palace attendants had already tidied up every desk, with a total of 9 desks, from front to back, in 3 rows and 3 columns. The one in the middle of the first row was carved with lacquered red sandalwood, and the seat behind it is covered with gold and red brocade mats. It was different from other desks at first glance. Even the 4 treasures of the study placed on it were more valuable. This was obviously the seat of Princess Shen Zhu Yi of Lei Yang. Everyone came in from the outside and saw the specialness of this position at a glance. They all consciously sat in other positions. Most of them sat in the same position as when they first arrived at Fengchen Hall. Jiang Shining chose the corner seat by the window almost without hesitation. That was the seat where she originally sat. Even though the window was open outside and the daylight was coming in, compared to the 2 rows in front, this place was still the hardest place to be noticed by the teachers. There was a full 6 months ahead, and she didn't want to choose a seat in front and sit under Shui Wei's nose. Both Xiao Shu and Chen Shuyi were obviously confident in their knowledge and background, so they chose the left and right sides of the eldest princess's position, respectively. Yao Shi chose the middle of the 2nd row, just behind Shen Zhuyi's position. On the left and right sides were Fang Miao and Zhou Baoying, respectively. In the last row from left to right, only You Yu, Yao Rongrong, and Jiang Suinin were left. Today was Shen Zhuyi's first real visit to Fengchen Hall. The Empress Dowager and Su Shengyi had already explained in the past few days that the lesson was something her older brother, the Emperor, had reluctantly agreed to. There was also a lot of criticism about it in court, and many people thought it was against etiquette, so she must cherish the opportunity and not be perfunctory. So she deliberately put on a decent palace dress with goose yellow woven with gold embroidery. Not long after Jiang Suining and the other 8 companions arrived, with only a minute left until the proper time, she walked in from the outside with 2 palace attendants. Everyone bowed and saluted. "Greetings, Your Highness. We pay our respects to the princess." Shen Zhuyi had not been so happy for a long time. Her bright face was full of smiles. She put her hands behind her back, lightly jumping up and standing at the threshold, and said to everyone, "From now on, you will all be my study companions. We will see each other more often, so don't be polite every time. You are tired and I am tired too, so get up quickly." As she spoke, she glanced around. Then she said, "Huh," and walked directly in front of Jiang Suinin. "Ning, why are you sitting at the back?" Shen Zhuyi had a cherry blossom petal on her forehead, and her face had lost its former gloom ever since the double 9th festival banquet. She had let go of the airs of the eldest princess that she had deliberately put on, and instead, she became approachable and even a bit playful, like a little girl. Jiang Suinin was shocked when she saw her concerned eyes. She remembered that she had seen Shen Zhuyi being so charming and happy in her previous life, but after knowing that she was a girl, this expression disappeared from Shen Zhuyi's face. She turned back into the Princess Lei Yang, who always had a hint of depression in her eyes, and whose temper was increasingly worse. Jiang Suning had seen how nice she had been to her before, and was afraid that she would ask her to sit in front of her as soon as she opened her mouth. So she winked at her and explained, "I'm a stupid person and not good at studying. I will sit here so that the teachers won't be upset. If I make a mistake and they ask me to leave, wouldn't that be embarrassing?" This was a euphemistic way of saying that she didn't want to be seen by the teachers. Shen Zhi understood and couldn't help laughing. She said, "With this princess protecting you, who dares to tell you to get lost?" The eyes of other people in the hall suddenly fell on Jiang Suinin, with jealousy, complexity, fear, and deep thought in their eyes. Jiang Shening could sense the subtle atmosphere in the hall, but she didn't dare to look. She was afraid that as soon as she raised her head, the knives in their eyes would stab her to death. Shen Zhi grew in the palace, doted on by everyone. Apart from her brother and mother, she didn't know what behaving restrainedly meant. When she liked someone, she would treat them well, without any scruples. She actually wanted Jiang Suinin to sit next to her. Wouldn't it be nice to sit closer and be able to see her by just turning her head? But when she looked forward, she saw that Xiao Shu and Chen Shui were already sitting on the left and right of her in the front row. They were both people she had known before. It would be awkward to ask anyone to get up and switch seats with Jiang Suining. So Shen Zhiyi gave up on the idea. She grumbled, If you want to sit here, just sit here first. It's okay if you want to change seats later if you get tired of it." Jiang Xuning breathed a sigh of relief. "Thank you, Your Highness." Shen Zhiyi then walked past her and sat down at her desk in the middle of the first row. Xiao Shu stood up at this moment, naturally placed a brocade box on Shen Zhiyi's desk, winked and smiled at her. Shen Zhiyi suddenly shouted in surprise, "Ah Shu even brought me a gift." She picked up the brocade box and opened it. Inside was an exquisite shadow puppet, which she immediately fell in love with. Chen Shuyi also stood up at this moment and presented the gift she had prepared with both hands. "I heard that Her Royal Highness the Princess likes Master Guqi's paintings. She happens to have a collection at home, so she brought it with her this time." Shen Zhiyi was delighted again. "Shu Yi is so nice to me." This time, when they entered the palace to accompany Shen Zhiyi, some people who were scheming or thoughtful actually prepared gifts for Shen Zhiyi, some of which were quite expensive, while others were just a token of appreciation. Originally, no one dared to present their gifts first, but with Xiao Shu and Chen Shuyi taking the lead, and Shen Zhiyi still being so happy, everyone had the courage to take this opportunity to present the gifts they had prepared. After a while, many things were placed on Shen Zhiyi's desk. Jiang Xunin was stunned. She remembered that she had mainly dealt with the affairs of Yo Fangyin and Yan Lin when she returned home this time, and had not thought about Shen Zhiyi at all. Now everyone has taken out their gifts, but she is not prepared at all. Her eyelids twitched for a moment. She silently thought to herself that since there were so many people giving gifts and she was sitting in the corner with little presents, it would be best if no one noticed her. But who would have thought that God didn't always follow people's wishes, and there were still people with bad mouths? As early as when Shen Zhiyi came in to talk, Yo Yu was already looking at Jiang Xunin. Now she noticed that everyone had brought gifts, but Jiang Xunin was the only one sitting motionless in his seat, with her head lowered. Didn't this give her the chance to find fault? With the lessons learned from the last time, she had learned not to confront Jiang Xuning directly. She only looked curious and laughed. "I didn't expect that everyone had a similar understanding and all brought gifts for the eldest princess. Although the gifts were different, they were all original. But I see Miss Jiang sitting quietly at the back. Could it be that she has prepared some special gift?" As soon as Yo Yu said this, all the attention that had been diverted before returned to Jiang Xunin. Even Shen Zhiyi turned around and looked at Jiang Xunin with bright eyes. She was obviously expecting Jiang Xunin to surprise her. At this moment, Jiang Xuning really wanted to rush over and tear Yo Yu's troublemaking mouth into pieces. But when she turned around and met Shen Zhiyi's expectant eyes, she felt helpless. She was really unprepared. Was she supposed to casually take out the jade pendant she carried with her as a half-hearted gesture? Jiang Xuning really couldn't do it. She lowered her eyes slightly, not looking directly at Shen Zhiyi, and sighed. "I didn't prepare any gift." Xiao Shu, who was sitting in the front row, raised her eyebrows when she heard this and sneered silently. Yo Yu showed a triumphant smile and immediately covered her lips, extremely surprised. "No way, Her Royal Highness the Princess treats second Miss Jiang so favorably, but you don't even have a gift." The rest of the words were deliberately left unsaid on purpose, but the malicious meaning was self-evident. Others looked at Jiang Xunin with somewhat ambiguous expressions. They should have sympathized with her, but how could a person who had been treated so favorably by Her Royal Highness the Princess get their sympathy? At this moment, they watched silently. They just thought, even if the eldest princess liked Jiang Xunin, under such a strong contrast, she should know that she was not that caring about her, and she will not be happy anyway, right? They were right. The moment Shen Zhiyi heard Jiang Xuning say that she had not prepared a gift, she did feel an indescribable sense of loss, and even a little sad. She thought that she was so good to her, and others thought of preparing a gift for her. But why couldn't she? But just the next moment, she saw Jiang Xuenin's posture of lowering her head and eyes. There was neither rebuttal nor explanation. She had an extremely beautiful appearance, and every movement of her eyes and brows were like the trembling of dew on a branch. At this moment, the slender neck was drooping, which actually made people's hearts soften and even felt distressed. Shen Zhiyi suddenly remembered what Yan Lin had said to her about Jiang Xuening's personal life, and remembered her situation in the mansion. Jiang Xuening was lowering her head to think about what kind of excuse she could come up with. As soon as she had some idea, she raised her head and wanted to explain herself. Actually, But she never expected that before she could say anything, Shen Zhiyi's eyes were red, and she actually said to her, I know everything. What do you know? Jiang Xuening's heart skipped a beat, and she almost thought that she knew some of her secrets. But when she raised her eyes, she was almost frightened by Shen Zhiyi's teary expression. She intuitively felt that something was wrong. Your Highness. Shen Zhiyi stood up, came to her, took her hand, and said with a firm look, Ning, don't worry. As long as I am here, no one will bully you. What does it matter if you didn't prepare a gift? Your studying with me is the best gift I have ever received. Jiang Xuening. But for her, this felt like a thunderclap, and what on earth has she imagined? Everyone around them thought that Shen Zhiyi would still feel resentful. Who would have imagined that things would suddenly develop like this? Xiao Shu was stunned. Yo Yer's jaw almost dropped to the ground. However, Shen Zhiyi had already determined in her heart that Jiang Xuening was a poor little girl who was not loved by her parents. With such a situation at home, how could she prepare gifts for her? She felt guilty for almost blaming her, and thought it was wrong of her. So, despite feeling sorry for her, she couldn't help but want to be nice to her. So she pointed to her writing desk and said, Look, these are all the gifts from them. Take a look and see if there is anything you like. I'll give them all to you. Jiang Xuening. Swish, swish, swish. Eyes filled with daggers flew everywhere. Everyone couldn't believe what they heard. The gift they carefully prepared for the eldest princess was actually turned around and given by the eldest princess to someone who didn't prepare a gift for her at all. Only Jiang Xuening was a treasure. They were all just weeds. Not to mention them, even Jiang Xuening couldn't help but feel a little heartbroken for them. Then she had a heart attack herself. This simply aroused everyone's hatred for her in an instant. But looking at the sincere and bright face in front of her, she could tell that she was really good to her, and she really couldn't blame her. As a result, Jiang Xuening suddenly had a new realization. From now on, she would just hold on to Shen Zhiyi's thick thigh with all her heart. As for others, it didn't look like they could be friends with each other anymore, so she would just leave them to do whatever they wanted. In Fengshan Hall, the atmosphere was tense for a moment. Everyone had their own thoughts. Fortunately, a clear voice came from outside the hall at this moment, breaking the suffocating silence. It was Shui Wei who walked up the steps and asked softly, Has Her Royal Highness the Princess and her companion arrived? Jiang Xuening's eyelids twitched immediately. Thank you for listening to this chapter. For advance releases of upcoming chapters, you can join me on Patreon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chapters, and kindly support this channel on Ko-Fi. The link is in the description below.